Snow Van, welcome to the audience. You're listening to Stories on the New Radio. Today, I'd like to invite you and your friends to a very good story. Titled Desire of Being Granny U50. A 30-year-old boy is trying to get old. And that doesn't seem right. When applied to Mrs. Hung. I'm turning 50 this year. She is not beautiful, though. No seduction embroidery, but the grace beneath the gentle smile. The words of a gentle voice. It makes the opposite impression hard to fade. She and her husband divorced while straight. Your child is 10 years old. It's now 25. My ex-husband married a new wife. But every month, he still provides full support for the mother and son Hung. Except for the support from her ex-husband, Ms. Hung also works as a real estate agent. Take care of paperwork for guests, your son Wall. Though not obedient, or as good as their children. But it doesn't sting. You're safe. Today, it turns out that Mrs. Hung took the guests down to Bin Duong to see the land, but she was dizzy and couldn't drive away. I asked my son to take the guests instead. It's also at home 7. These months, the company did not sign the contract. Let's say you facilitated it. Earn some money to spend. I just had a left-hand job. Mrs. Hung is resting in the house. The doorbell rings. When I looked, I saw a young man about the age of my son. She asked him who he was looking for. The young man replied, "I'm looking for the wall. I've called it before and I can't get it. I know it's 7 karmas, so I'm going to ask him out for coffee." Mrs. Hung said softly, "He's going to work. He must be driving." I can't answer the phone. What's your name? I'll call it later. Aunt Hung. I don't recognize you. I was at this bar before. I used to ask him out. When he fell into the hospital, I went to visit him. After that, I didn't dare to come to the house. For fear of Auntie. So I'll meet him on the phone. At this time, Mrs. Hung suspected. And looked closely at the young man outside the door. Then she remembered R.A. She just unlocked the door and said, "I remember your face. Now look at the other one. Tall, fleshy skin than before. You've been blacker lately. That's cool. So I wonder if it's you. Stop coming home, then go in and drink water and wait for the wall. Let me call him and ask him when he'll be back." The bar is running away. It makes sense to listen to Ms. Hung. Because now there's no wall. Being alone is boring and coming home is boring. Go inside and wait for the wall. Waiting for the car to arrive, she locked the door and told him to come in. Let her give way first. Then it's chiseled. While waiting for her to get water, she looked at Theo without blinking. The same gait, the same shoulders. Still the flourishing facade. She's the woman I always thought of. Every time I'm stunned. Finding fun on your own. The wall used to show pictures of Mrs. Hung. Your daughter was very beautiful. The bar always wondered, I don't know why 3 walls. You can divorce a good woman. As beautiful as Mrs. Just thinking about it, the bar couldn't control it. I'm in a bad way with my mother. My friend was startled when Mrs. Hung pulled back to reality. The bar. Listen to what Aunt Hung is thinking and focus. It's not there. There is nothing new in the sun. It's so cool to be in the house. I'm a little lightheaded. I'm sure I'm sunstroke. Are you hot? If it's hot, let me turn on the air conditioner. I want to thank Aunt Hung. The bar sits across from Mrs. The air conditioner is on the table next to it. Mrs. Hung jumped up. She leaned over to the bar to reach out for the cooler. As a habit, the shop's eyes were wide open. According to reflections, Tay also tried to take Yomos to give her Hung. But it was a beat slower than Mrs. Hung. She just touched Yomos. His hand also touched hers. They looked at each other for about 3 seconds. The bar hurried back. I know the bar is afraid. She turned on the air conditioner and asked another question. What has the bar been doing so much lately? I'm going to take care of the paperwork, too. Oh, do you have a wife or children? Not yet, Aunt. Why not find a girlfriend and have a baby for fun? The wall guy. Auntie with girlfriend, he's counting years after marriage. But now it's 7 karmas that must leave next year. I used to throw up wanting a wife. But now I see that things will naturally be better than you. Every person, every number. The bar thought that was fine. How are you? My mother died of the plague. Auntie, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't listen to the wall. Why not? Now I'm with AI. I am alone, Aunt. My brother has a family and RA is alone. If you are free, come to my house to eat. My aunt and I have 2 mothers who are also sad. 1 more, 2 more chopsticks, 8 for the door. I thank Auntie first. I've been eating at the restaurant all year. The restaurant didn't let me clean it up. Thank you, Auntie. Mrs. Hung went to the kitchen. You just took the plate and you're going to put food in. Then the dizziness came. Dazed, she dropped the plate to the ground. I was startled to hear a rush into the kitchen. I saw her hand against the wall. Her feet were about to collapse. I can't think of anything in a hurry to ask. Auntie, do you have Auntie? My face is dark now. Your mind is spinning like a pinwheel. She just held her hands and couldn't speak out. The bar hurriedly held her hand. Just holding the bar, Mrs. Hung also collapsed. I saw pieces of the plate that filled the kitchen floor. The restaurant steeped Mrs. Hung up, too, bringing her to the sofa. And then he goes in and cleans up the mess in the kitchen. When I turned around, I saw that she was still dreaming. When he saw her lying on the sofa uncomfortably, he asked, "You better let me call the wall right away." Mrs. Hung is whispering now. Don't let it take you to see the land under the Pacific Ocean. It is useless for people to buy it somewhere else. Let me go to my room and rest. Let's sit and watch the house and wait for the wall to come back. Yes. Mrs. Hung forced herself to sit up and she stood on the chair. The restaurant is also worried about Mrs. It's the most observant of her movements. Afraid of her falling, Mrs. Hung really fell. Fortunately, it can support its arm. The bar carried her back into the room. I don't know if it's your room. But he couldn't lock it, so he carried her. After putting her to bed, go to the kitchen to get warm water. A stranger should look for a towel to wipe his face. Mrs. Hung lay bar. She's not awake right now. Eyes closed, mouth just boobs. Afraid of being hit by the wind, I quickly picked up the wind oil on my forehead and showed her. Hung is not awake, she asked, even though she knew she couldn't answer. Let me shave the wind for Aunt Hung. Stand in meditation for a minute. And then he risks getting close. Shake it hard to see if you are awake. I see you have no reaction. The bar is starting to get restless. Finally, it's also fulfilled a childhood dream. Get out the reclining sofa. Close your eyes and make a smug smile. At 5 o'clock the wall came back and woke up. She told me about Mrs. Hung's health. Go back to the wall at home to rest and take care of your mother. I thought it was a cowardly act that day. Only he knows and everything will be forgotten. It continues the chaos of life. But no, a few days after work, the wall called. A bar, what are you doing? Listen to me. I'm on a business trip. What's wrong with Aunt Hung? My mother is well and she called to thank you. I will tell you what to eat at the family dinner. I want to eat alone now. Come to my house, I always have. If you have anything, I'll come by in the afternoon. Later that afternoon, we went to the wall and found the house. Guests are mean. Cousin Wall and a young woman. Aunt Hung remembers the meaning. Because he used to follow me. Playing with walls and bars. Later I heard he married. But there's all kinds of bad things involved in gambling. So my wife left. And the Kia woman doesn't know who. I guess it's probably his mother. Her face is not as beautiful as her aunt. But got a very sexy look. She is as small as Auntie Hung but more powerful. Many steps into the house, the eyes of the shop touched Mrs. Hung's eyes. Both of them suddenly became embarrassed and stopped the rope. Then Mrs. Hung opened her mouth. Come to play, son. Wait a minute and eat with the wall. The bar turned to smile and said hello to both of you. She smiled and greeted another bar. With her sweet smile of incense. The smile of this woman. It's a little bit arrogant. The wall suddenly made the bar panic again. I mean, stay for lunch with your mother. I always finish eating and come back. Well, her name is Mash. Thinking bar. Let another meal come. You and I have to go on business. I came over today. You don't know him, you know what's going on. She said she just turned around and glanced at him. Mrs. Hung asked her to grind into the room for a few minutes and then back out. Two people whispering big and small don't know. You only see it when you are far away. Her face cracked with joy, thanking Mrs. The guy meant from beginning to end. Just sit there with your face down on the floor. While Hung took her mother and son out the door. The restaurant enlists the wall to prepare rice to the table. Mrs. Hung said to the restaurant and the wall. The reason you two spent the night. Then out. The loser is missing more than 100 million people. She loves you, so she borrowed money from Mrs. Hung. I told her not to let her husband know. I heard your husband is not a good man. He's saved it many times. If this time he knows he's still betting, he will fight for a fight. So Hung's body sighed. It was also because she crushed the genius who killed it. You went to collect my debt and you messed with my debt. My wife can't afford a divorce. But he still hasn't woken up. Fortunately, they didn't play with it. I heard that two guys can only laugh. Suddenly the wall has a phone. When he got on the phone, he turned to his mother. Go to the loan house. My girlfriend went on a business trip with BA of loan. I must be late. Go to bed and wait for your door. He turned around and told the bar, "I have to go on business. You're done playing with your mother. Let's have another meal. I want some coffee. I have 7 appointments with you now." How crazy my friends have been. I don't understand. If you are busy, go ahead. I helped Aunt Hung clean up after I went home. Then wash the dishes for me. Come on, I'm going to lose my job. Not finished yet. Hurry up and get the key. Take the car and launch like a rocket. Mrs. Hung stood up to clean the rice plate and shook her head. Thanks to it, it idles coal up, coal down. The girl thanks for one and runs away. That's really wise. Stop it, Auntie. Lan is going to be my daughter-in-law anyway. Yes, I also vomit a lot of grandchildren. I am old and alone at home. Now I have a grandson to hold. Playing together is boring. Oh, I still have. You are so young and so old. Because you don't want to. As beautiful as Auntie AI looks without liking. The guy who looks like that has a mouth. I asked a little bit about the wall. I was afraid to ask too. What is it, Aunt? Meal Aunt fainted. The bar carried you into the room and shaved you. Mrs. Hung asked suddenly. I have a hard time thinking about the answer. He only knows one little reason. To see Ms. Hung Rasao's reaction. Thank you for the bar. If there is no restaurant, I hit my head or lay on the ground. It's time for the wall to come back. I'm sure you followed your grandparents. The wall is my friend. I can take care of you like you take care of me. The 2 words care were deliberately pressed. I just looked at Mrs. She looked at it and she was embarrassed. Quickly looked the other way. To avoid the bar's sexy gaze. The intuition of a predator. I feel the opportunity is approaching. But it's got to calm down. Hung is a traditional woman. I don't want to say backward. Mrs. Hung suddenly became confused. She asked softly as if afraid of someone else hearing her. There is only you and him in the house. The doors and glass are also closed. After shaving the wind at the bar. I can't fix it for you. If no one sees it, I'm afraid. At that moment, I fell in the kitchen and my pants got wet. I'm in the wind again, so you're welcome. I don't know where you put your clean clothes. So I let it be. I'm sorry, don't be mad at me. The bar felt guilty, she hurriedly reassured. Thank you, I can't even blame the bar. You're a handsome friend. Beautiful young women don't need to look at ugly old women like you. Right? The bar saw the time coming. Not caught right now. I fear that there will be no chance later. You know what? In my eyes you are the most beautiful and charming. I'm sorry, but that day I shaved the wind. I couldn't help it. It was my happiest day, Auntie. The space becomes quiet. The 2 eyes look at each other and then look the other way. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. The club decided to hit the last trick. He stood up and walked towards Mrs. She cringed at strangers for fear of the bar. The bar caught the thought. She was half an arm away. The bar bends 1 foot down. 2 his hands held hers. Eyes staring down. Sorry if the bar scared you. I just want to say that I love you so much. since the bar was a 15-year-old boy. It's not just lustful. It's real love. My aunt's gentle touch. I can't think of another girl. My aunt is always in my mind. The bar was too small. She is a friend of the wall. I can only keep that feeling in my heart. But today the bar can't hold it back. The bar says it all out once. From now on, the shop will erase the image of Aunt R.A. from my mind. Out of the heart. Mrs. Hung blushed. Her eyes looked down at the ground to avoid the restaurant's gaze. Hide the awkwardness. Embarrassment in her head at this moment. Saw Mrs. Hung was still silent. The barman let go of Mrs. Raw's hand and stood up. In his head he was confused, not knowing what to do next. Advance or retreat? Already here. Then advance or retreat, there will be no turning back. Then go ahead, at most you will get slapped. Slightly bent over two handrails on both sides of head. Mrs. Hung gently lifted her face and his lips gently touched. Aunt Hung is kissing Tuong's mother. The bar is kissing the woman he has always desired. The shop is her friend, is a polite and well-behaved child. She knew but thought it was her son. She knows how to speak in a way that is moral and ethical. What should an old woman do when she meets a young man? But one word but made her stop. But she and the shop are both single. But the shop is not related to me by blood. Notice the pause. In Mrs. Hung's act of resistance. The bar knew it had won round one. And the decisive moment finally came. A veteran artist and a newcomer. New to the profession. But they are incredibly compatible. The whole room seemed to explode with enthusiasm. Love their profession. The phone ringing startled the shop. Mrs. Hung too. Hello, what is it? You are still at home. I don't have a shop and I'm thinking of going home. What's up? Tonight Lone's dad and I are going to a long-distance province. Should sleep down there. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to ask you to sleep at my house tonight. Mom, I'm alone. I'm not at ease. You are also alone. Stay at my house for dinner. Talk to my mom. Think it's a small thing. Not only today, but from now on. I can take care of your mother from A to Z. So, tomorrow you move all your clothes and belongings to my house. There is an empty room upstairs for guests. Ha! Ha! What are you laughing at? I'm serious. But where is my mother? Give the phone to my mom so I can talk. The shop saw Mrs. Hung closing her eyes, so I didn't want to wake her up. Aunt Hung said she was tired, so she went to her room to rest. Let me text Mom. Thank you very much. As soon as the wall hung up, Mrs. Hung moved slightly. The innkeeper knew she was awake, but pretended to close her eyes. Quiet bar. Take a tissue to wash away the remnants of war. Just past the shop to let Mrs. Hung rest on the sofa. And he went to the toilet to take a shower. When returning to R.A., saw Mrs. Hung was on the phone. She was a little upset, but her voice remained calm. I'm out of cash. This afternoon I gathered all the cash in the house and gave it to you. Now you cry, I cannot help. But the wall also, no home. Or tomorrow when it comes back, I will ask to borrow it for you. What is the shop asking for? Oh no. Problem. That guy's mother called to borrow money. She just borrowed it at noon. At noon, my aunt collected 50 million. Lend it to her and her child. I borrowed it at noon and now I have 10 million more. Now calling to cry, it still lacks nearly 40 million more. The guests have seen several pieces of land, but no one has paid a deposit yet. I want to help but cannot help. So what to do now, Aunt? Then Aunt asked Nia's mother to wait for Tuong to come back tomorrow. Aunt asked to borrow it for me. These past few months, it's been 7 years. I don't know if he has money or not. Okay, I'll call Tuong's dad's house later to borrow some. Good, let me borrow. When her mother pays her, I will give it to her. I'm not in a hurry yet, so I'll run out now. Auntie called Nia's mother to come and get it. Mrs. Hung called back. After she finished grinding, she told the restaurant. He asked his aunt to go to the coffee shop for him, ready to take it and return it to the person. He can't drive. Just now he was angry about Nia. The devil took the car and went drinking. Then Aunt, go take a shower and change clothes. I'll go to the ATM and withdraw some, then I'll come back to give it to you, Auntie. Mrs. Hung said hesitantly. Auntie, now both legs are numb, body is weak. Why is my leg numb? Mrs. Hung glanced at the shop and smiled reproachfully. Thanks to AI, I'm like this, why are you still asking? I'm just kidding, let me go, Aunt. I go help you. Let me call it. Then give its address and phone number to me. Mrs. Hung called to tell Mrs. Crush the news from the other side. Mrs. Grind was overjoyed and thanked her profusely. The two sides met at the coffee shop. Before leaving the restaurant, don't forget to kiss Mrs. Hung. Goodbye. Make her blush. The barman smiled and said, Auntie, lie down and rest for a bit, then get up and take a shower. I will take care of you tonight when I come home. She glanced at it as she withdrew money from the bank. Run straight to the appointed coffee shop. It does not come in but calls for her to crush. She walked out wearing a tank top like she did at noon. Just thinner. Outside she wore a thin lace shirt. She smiled awkwardly and nodded to the bar. The arrogance has not disappeared. Instead, it's the face of a desperate man. I feel sorry for you. Though SAO, just because I love you, I have to run for apples. I have borrowed from the four sides. He greeted her with a hat. Insurance for you. I didn't forget to kick my leg down so she could climb up. Hello, my aunt, the name of the wall means. I'll get in the car and drive you. When the grader is settled, the bar asked in a soft, warm voice. Where are we going now, Aunt? Go to District 4. All the way she mashed silently. And the bar only thinks of the farmer's bull assembling the leaves. With my back. To deliver 50 million envelopes for you to crush. He waited outside for her to come in alone. 10 minutes later, she turned to a fresh face. Where are you going now? Nothing. The bar has finished asking and now I can go home. Now everything is done. The way back. She asked Han about family business. The intimacy of the restaurant. The wall and your son. Mouth answered. And the mind just keeps thinking about it. That's the dream. The bar doesn't dare do anything wrong. The first is fear. The second is that her husband is not gentle. Waiting for you to reach the end of the alley, say hello and please come back. Please allow me to go back before. Thank you very much for the bar. If there is no bar, I don't know. I'll send it back to the bar next month. No wonder. I can take it easy whenever I have it. I mostly want to help you. I see you struggle and I feel sorry too. I really don't know how to pay for this. It's easy. It's okay to have a snack. Inviting the bar to your house is not convenient. Every day the bar is free. Invite me to the bar. Come back and say hello. Thank you very much. The bar enlisted to drive home. Take a shower and change and jump over the wall. Because he knows someone is waiting. It's probably going to be a long night. Mrs. Hung RA rang the bell. Mrs. Hung changed into a white nightgown. A little too long for the knee. Behind the nightgown is a blue suit. Today she is wearing colored lipstick. Pale red lipstick accentuates white skin and deep strokes. Afraid of the neighbor, she asked awkwardly. Even though I know the answer. I came to play, the wall didn't come back yet. The doctor hurriedly replied to her. Listen to the neighbors too. I asked you to come to the house tonight. It doesn't bother me to stay home alone. Take the car into the house, lock the door carefully. When I came into the house, I saw my grandmother sitting on the sofa. I know the bar is looking at me. Mrs. Hung seemed to be paying attention. She deliberately screwed up to avoid neighbors. I hear unwanted sounds. Slowly the bar came back and sat next to her, kissed her hair, breathed into her ear, made her pale. She quickly stood up to avoid. Close the door and lock it. Mrs. Hung is confused. You know what the bar is going to do. But she's still a little scared, and she's wondering what she's doing. You knew the wall wasn't coming back tonight. It reminds you that you are still a woman. There is still a need. I still want to be hugged by a loving man. And now she's afraid, she wants to run away. She was confused, half wanting to stop and half wanting to continue. But the wall, if it knows about this, it's going to come out. Although the wall is very understanding and psychological, even though the wall always supported her to find a man. Find a shoulder to lean on. But if he knows his mother's leaning on his friend's shoulders, oh my God. The next morning the wall came back and the bar was gone. She stayed in the room all day. The wall is not strange. Because his mother had a habit. So a day, 2 days, then a week, 2 weeks go by. The bar still does not appear. I don't call or text the wall. Even more so with Mrs. 3 days later, I asked the wall if there was any contact. But it's still missing. You have to pretend to call the bar. Come to the restaurant. I should have called the bar. I don't know what to call me at lunch, asshole. Tao Lu Bu has a lot of work. I always remind you when you are free to eat. Thank you for sleeping at dinner. Let me arrange that. The restaurant quickly hung up the phone to report the conversation. Mrs. Hung is sad, but she tried to pretend there was nothing wrong. To the wall without doubt. Maybe the bar is busy. They don't want to eat, so they want to avoid it. The bar doesn't really want to avoid it. Mrs. Hung is not. The bar was so busy that I didn't have time to visit her house. It's just the last few days. Every time he finished, he was busy going to see his grandmother. My cousin Hung, and the one who is grateful for it. It all started a week after the evening. Stay at Mrs. Hung's house. The bar was sitting in the notary's office that morning. Then get it, grinded grandmother's phone. Hello, Cho asked if it was the number of the wall's friend's bar. That's right, ask me who you are. I'm the mother of the wall, remember? Oh, my God, what's wrong with you? Are you free at the bar this afternoon? I'd like to meet you at the bar for a little chat. I can't talk on the phone. I'll give you the address. I was there for about 3 hours. The bar arrived just in time. She mashed it up at a garden cafe. She sat at a table in the corner. The bar is strange. Why this grinder appointment it here? This place is quiet but quite far from home. She's waiting for the staff to bring water to the bar. I'll see you. Is there anything to do at the bar? I went to the bar to thank them for helping me last time. And the meaning. And I want to ask the bar to help me again. Tell me something. He said there are only 100 million people missing. Now the distance is that it's short of people by almost 500 million. People come to the house asking for money. He was angry and left the house for 2 days. I asked all my friends who didn't know me. I want to ask the bar to help me save him. I am very angry, but even though he is my son, he is my son. Crying in the middle of a coffee shop. So many eyes turned to the table. I was in a hurry to comfort my aunt. Stop crying and let me slowly think. 500 million is not a small number. I couldn't get it in time. I know, but now I don't have AI to bridge with. My aunt didn't help me either. If there is no money, he must have been executed under the law of the jungle. I wait for you first. I have $300 in the bank. I'll withdraw the money and bring it to your house. I called his creditors. Please relax for a few more days and let me. Now accidentally like this, the creditors must also understand. It doesn't strain. Whatever they mean, they lose. Their only goal is to get money. I just messed with 3 guys. So I can't go home. He saw you going around borrowing money to save him. He's swearing again. I'm tired, son. I don't want to mess with him anymore. Just sit here and wait for the bar. Just go to the bar. Even if you are here, it's a place where people hold large amounts of money. It is not convenient to go back and forth. Let's call the creditors first. If it's okay, I'll take you to cash out. Give it to people too. Understand the psychology of the people. Loans with interest. I just want to get the money. What's the use of taking the arm or taking the life of the debtor? It's easy to lose money and travel. After closing the contract, waiting for you to withdraw money. Take her to every creditor's place. The last time I looked at the clock was after 7 p.m. The restaurant was a little hungry, and she asked her grandmother. It's too late. I'll take you to get something to eat, and then I'll take you home. Yes, I'm a little hungry too. The bar pulled into a faux bar. Both he and the grinder are hungry. You should eat quickly to cover the stomach. After eating, the restaurant opened. Waiting for you to come home. Then tomorrow I'll go and borrow the rest of the money. When you get something, bring it to me. Thank you very much for the bar. Fortunately, there is a rescue. If you have an aunt, you will die too. When I saw that she was about to cry, the bar stopped her. It's all done, don't worry. This money is for you. For a few months Rao sold the land in District 9. Then returned to the bar. Just relax. I'm taking you home to rest now. You must be tired all day. No need for the bar. Why, my aunt is also convenient for me to go home. Now his aunt's husband is hot. Every time he gets angry, he gets drunk. I don't want to see him right now. It's hard to fight. Take me down to a clean, quiet hotel. Leave me there for a few days. I'm ready to go find a guy. Just wait and find it, and then I'll go home. I can't wait for you to find it. waiting for her to crush into a 2-star hotel. He knows you don't have much money in you. I'll pay you a week in advance. Give the key to the grinder. As she was about to drive home, she said, "Can you help me with one more thing?" Bar. Can you stay with me? I'm not alone in a strange place. My aunt is afraid of ghosts. The bar carefree burst out laughing, without noticing that she was afraid to blush. Seeing you embarrassed, I found myself in a hurry to get serious. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, so I switched back to a double room. It is very expensive, a room with a bed of $700K. One room, 2 beds up to $1 million. It's expensive, I just need a place to sleep. That's okay. Go ahead to press the elevator. The room is also clean. Being out on the street all day makes me sick. Bar and Grandma mashed the sun's stench. She called the bar to take a shower first. In the meantime, she contacted her boyfriend to arrange to meet him. Let me know immediately. After the shower, he wrapped himself in a towel. I saw my grandmother talking on the phone. She turned around and saw that the bar was only wrapped in a towel. She's a little embarrassed by this unwelcome situation. She's hiding her in the shower. Wait for you to hang up. I went in the shower and left my shit outside so you could call the front desk. Ask people to bring laundry. It should be dry in the morning. I didn't bring any clothes. Maybe you're going to wear dirty clothes to bed. Don't be afraid to see me as a wall. I think the bar makes sense. It's your son's age and your benefactor. So you are also assured. 20 minutes later, she walked out. The towel wrapped tightly. But I can't hide the shame on my face. They both naturally blush. No one dares to look straight at him. The bar then emptied the village to make the atmosphere less tense. I'm tired. Let me turn off the lights and put me to sleep. She grinds and dries her hair and sits gently on the bed. Cover yourself with a blanket. She removed the towel gently. Stand up and turn off the lights. Turn it down and go to bed. Blanket next to Grandma Mash. The bar deliberately submitted the air conditioner 18 degrees. It even opened a fan. Let the air in the room get colder. Granny crushing still carefree lying watching TI6. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, she began to stir because of the cold. I know, but still silent. You're getting colder. She inched slowly from the bar so that the warmth radiated from her. The bar helps her feel cold. She asked me if it was cold so I could turn off the fan. Quilt stand up off fan. I don't know if it's true or false. It's in form that no writer can describe. And reflexively he was shy. Sorry, my aunt. I was unintentionally too good at home. I used to sleep like that. Grandma mashed silent hot face. Fortunately, the lights were dim so I didn't realize her face was red with fear. Watch the 6 for a while. For being out in the sun all afternoon, so we're both tired and we don't know when to fall asleep. I woke up to find that 6 was still open. It's looking at the clock on TV, it's over 12 hours now. The bar looks to the side. Since when has she been lying close to the theater? The grandmother snuggled under his arm. It's like a cold shrimp. The bar faces her. Too tired to think, close your eyes and sleep. Lim Dim is about to go to sleep. The granny's scream made the bar wake up. Don't tell him he's my son. So you're dreaming. Poor Granny crushing. Your great child's love. It also makes the bar feel good. He hugged her tighter and calmed her down. I saw you say nothing more. Close your eyes and prepare for sleep. I don't know if you did it accidentally or intentionally. I don't know if you're sleeping or pretending. But some actions make it a little bit overwhelming. The old man soon disappeared from his mind. Is it true, or is the dream true for him or herself? To dream with you or with you? He thought and fell into the night. Is delicious. When I sleep, the sadness of urination comes to wake up the bar. He tried to open his eyes to pee. Suddenly, I feel something weighing down on me. The bar remembers what just happened. Everything is real, not a dream. She stared at the bar. She was stunned and asked the bar, "What is the bar doing?" She was in a hurry to ask her again. "What did you do?" "I don't remember." "No, my aunt doesn't remember. Whenever I'm tired, my aunts are sleepwalking and delirium." "What did you say to the bar?" "I don't know what to say." She asked softly, as if she was afraid of someone listening outside. "To be honest, you did something wrong, didn't you?" "I'm sorry, Auntie." They both fell into the closed sleep of drilling. Tonight the bar drove me in an accidental sleep. To make you wake up. She looked out through the curtains and saw the sun rising. She and her husband picked up the phone to check the time. It's over 9 a.m. But there's not a missed call. A message from your husband. The same is true, even more so. She opened the phone book. I remember someone who used to play very well. Someone you don't want to talk about. Don't want to contact. She pulls the contacts, click on the name Bone 12B9. She didn't know whether to call or text. She looked over and saw that the bar was sleeping, and she wrote a message. If the bones are healthy, there is no meaning. She waited anxiously. Recall the story of many years ago. When he just graduated from high school. She was still in hiding with her ex-husband. Straight to the wall. While she was still thinking. Then Kia texted back. I haven't seen you in a long time. Is something wrong, Wanty? Grandma Mashed hesitates. I don't know if I should tell you. It lacks money. He came to his house and left for a few days. I'm looking for it. Let me ask my high school friends if I've seen him. What news will I report? Thanks, Do. She was in a better mood than she was teaching the bar. Take your aunt home and get some clothes. The bar, yes. I fell asleep and went back to sleep for a while. Granny grinds it to sleep a little more. And she went to the toilet to wash her mouth. After that, she woke up the bar. Call back for Granny Mash while the bar goes to the Do bath. Crushed. Auntie, do you have any news? That day the girl of the river and the ox. Borrow 10 million each. I heard it said to go to Lam Dong or Bin Phuc. Do you know who he knows up there? I didn't know he had friends up there. And they don't have any AI on them. Let me ask the girls again. Is anyone up there? Yes, thank you first. There's nothing strange about you and me. That word of Do makes you mute. I saw that she didn't say anything, and the fog beat the village drum. Let me call you and tell you what I know. The bone hung up, but the grinder sat still. How many memories came to mind? After the shower, I saw my grandmother holding the phone. But the eyes look as far as the soul. She didn't hear it either. He had to come to pat you on the shoulder before you could recover. What's wrong? Why don't you try it? My high school friend just told me. It passed to borrow money from people to go to Lam Dong or Bin Phuc. Do you know who he knows up there? No, I don't. I don't know his future friends. Are you going to tell me? Let me go home and make some clothes for Theo. Whenever there is news about the location of the boy, then I went up there and took him back. I'll text him I'm looking for him. He won't go looking for it with me. I'll take you to breakfast and come home. Stay here. I've been paying for a week, and I'll be here to take care of you. If there's any news, I'll go with you. Auntie is a woman. Traveling alone will not be safe and secure. What about the bar? Don't worry, I'll ask someone to do it for you. You can pay the money. Thank you for not knowing how to pay. I saw her eyes glistening, waiting to cry. The bar placed a passionate kiss on her lips. She grinds in surprise, but also opens her lips in response. After taking her to breakfast, waiting for the mashed grandmother to come home so she could get dressed. The car park is waiting for you to get your stuff. Then a young man about his age drove up. Look at it, look at two. Males silently look at each other to investigate. Look at this guy's playful appearance. I guess he's a friend. The due to see the bar look mature ever. It doesn't predict the bar's relationship to the family. What does it mean? The cold mist nods to the bar. The bar also coldly responded. But neither of them opened their mouths. This time she grinds from the house out. I just saw that her bones are a little broken. She calmed down and asked, how long has the bone come? Your baby just arrived, Auntie. To go back to the restaurant, she crushed Theo. This is my friend's bone. This is my aunt's friend's bar. Cousin meaning. Bone straightening main problem. Take me now to find the right guy. Do knows where. I asked the bar to take me. To meet meaning, I have a car to take him back for you. I haven't asked him exactly where he is. But there are only a few places. I will take you to find every place you can. No wonder. I've been driving my aunt to find it since yesterday. Don't mind. The bar grinned. I don't understand why people see natural bones. Nasty. Don't worry about letting her grind alone with it. Maybe this is instinct. She is also confused right now. Do not know how to handle our ASAO. When you leave the bar, you can't stand it. That goes with the bar in front of the bone. You also find it inconvenient. Because even though the fog is a friend, she also knows her husband, and most of all, he had an illicit relationship with her. Do is a connoisseur who is not inferior to the bar. Sooner or later he'll notice the difference between you and the bar. Okay. While she was still wondering, I don't know why, the restaurant received a customer's call. People asked the notary to fold some papers. He had to let her crush him back to the bone and run like a gunshot to get ready to get to work. Actually, in her heart she did not want to see the do again. Even more, she didn't want to ask her to be indebted to her. But in this situation, out of the fog, there's no one left to help you find your son. The Do Prince looked at her with a slightly disdainful expression. So now I'm waiting for you to leave, or you want to wait for the bartender to go? She looked at him and she was angry, but she couldn't do anything. It's still that handsome face. Still the wacky smile of a stylish playboy. Memories of 4 years ago. Suddenly in her mind. 4 years ago, he was in his second year of college. In my high school friends. Confess yourself in the most meaningful way. For studying general from 10th to 12th grade. There are 2 guys and the ox. He moved to his 11th grade. She knows the Bones quite well. She also knew that her son was very close to the Bone. Every time I go to a parents' meeting, she talked to the mother of Bones. Or when 2 guys mess around in school, invited parents together. Summer break or Tet holiday, all of us went to her house to go out. She saw that it was unruly but quite polite. So she sees him as a grandson. Even though he is still young, he still loves to play. Until they go to college. Everyone goes to a different school. So the Bones came through her house. All year long, I happen to see the Bones again. Granny grinds at it without realizing. The older the better the handsome, the taller the man. Look at it. She also felt a little fluttered in her. If only there was no afternoon. Maybe she crushed it. Not slipping into the depths of a woman's instinct. I am old in spring. That time. She is still sneaking back and forth with him. 3 men and also the ex-husband of Ms. Hung. At that time he was remarried. He could only enlist her to crush away the hotel. In the afternoon, from 2 to 5 o'clock. And she grinds the nails. Nin. That guy is still in school. No one will find out about your affair. But people are not equal to heaven. That afternoon, after a coffee party at a hotel far from home. Granny crushing jacket, his hand compares love to go down. Check out. There was a young man walking alone. Standing at the front desk waiting for the room key. When the young man got the key and came back. She was surprised because she looked at him quite familiar. The young man was also surprised when I met my grandmother at this hotel. She looked closely. It's exactly your child's own Bone. Suddenly she looked at him in silence. And you're busy charging to go home. I didn't notice her attitude. And the young Kia. Bones just smirked a grin and nodded and went. That's less than a week later. She had to use her fire medicine body to silence the skeleton. It goes on and on like this. I don't know when it's going to end. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, today's episode is here. Please allow me to close. Thank you for your attention. Follow us. Hello, goodbye. See you in the next series.